All right, so quiz number 10 review. So quiz number 9 would have happened last week, but we had midterms, so it didn't happen at that time. So today we're doing quiz number 10. Find the value of the trig function. So first problem is up there. We have a right triangle. We know that our angle is theta. They gave us a 12 and a 15, and they want me to figure out tangent of theta. Now to figure out tangent of theta, I need to know my opposite over my adjacent side, okay? Now, according to what I have right now, here's my angle. Let me mark it up here. So this is my angle. 15 would be what? Adjacent, hypotenuse, or opposite? Hypotenuse. Which one is my opposite side? The one blank, right? So that's opposite, and this would have to be my adjacent, okay? So that means I got to figure out my opposite side because I don't have it. Okay, so I'm going to have to use a quadratic, the Pythagorean theorem. I was going to say polynomial. The Pythagorean theorem. So here we go. A squared plus b squared equal to c squared. Remember, c is always your hypotenuse. So that's going to be 15. A and b doesn't really matter what you want it to be. I'm just going to let my a always be the unknown one, okay? So the unknown, the opposite side, I'm just going to call it a squared. B will be 12 squared, and c will be 15 squared. So a squared plus 144 is 225. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 144 to the right side. So that's a squared equals to 121. I think that's right. 1, 2, 1. Yeah, 121. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. What's the square root of 121? That's 11, right? So my value is 11 for my opposite side. So tangent, remember, that's equal to opposite over adjacent. That means tangent of theta is 11 over 12. And that's it. Now, if they wanted to know the measure of the angle, then you would do tangent inverse, right? But that's not what these problems are doing. These just want you to write the value of the trig function, right? So tangent of theta is 11/12. That's what it is. Don't give me the decimal or anything. Just give me the fraction. That's all. I think I told you guys when we were doing this, these are like the harder problems because you might have to use the Pythagorean theorem, right? Section 10.2 required a little bit more work. The other ones are a little faster. So, but 10.2 definitely required more work. So this was the more work, the Pythagorean theorem portion. Are we okay with that one? All right. So question number 2. So we have theta, we have a 5, we have a 13. They want me to find cosine of theta. Again, we're given a right triangle, so I mean that has to be the case for now. Everything we're doing that's trigonometry that we're doing is related to our right triangle trigonometry. So I'm going to mark my angle. Okay, so there it is. And in order to find cosine, I need adjacent and I need the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's start labeling stuff. So let's see. 13, that's my hypotenuse. What's 5? That's actually my opposite. Yeah, it's actually my opposite. This would be adjacent. I told a student earlier today, I said, you see how I put a little arc on the angle? See how I put an arc on there? The arc does not touch the opposite side. So you see how the red arc right here touches where the A is and where the H is, it's touching these sides? But notice how the opposite side, this side right here, does not get touched by the arc. That's considered your opposite. So the side that the arc does not touch is your opposite side. So, all right. For cosine, since my ratio is adjacent over hypotenuse, I don't have adjacent, so I'm going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'll let my a squared be my missing side, right? The side that doesn't have anything. So that'll be a squared plus b is going to be 5. So that's going to be 5 squared. And then c has to be 13. So that'll be 13 squared. So a squared plus 25 equals 169. If I subtract 25 over to the right side, I get 144. So a squared is equal to 144. And to find a, I just got to take a square root of both sides. So square root of a squared is the same as the square root of 144. So a is 12. So this is a 12. So a over h will be what? 12 over 13. Thank you. So there we go. And that's it. Doing the actual work, the one that's in the box, that's easy. But you got to find the pieces. That's the hard part, right? And that's when you need the Pythagorean theorem. But if we had all three sides, then doing these definitions would be simple because I just got to do a over h, o over h, o over a, right? The work is tough only because there's missing sides. If all sides were there, it wouldn't be that bad. All right, we're going to do one more of these because, like I said, these are the hard ones, so I'd rather do extra of these. And the easier ones, we're only doing 2 of each. And of course, if you guys have more questions on them, that's fine. Just let me know. Sorry? Yeah, that's all we're going to test on, those 3 sections. I mean, from what I've heard from most of my students in classes as they're doing homework, they're like, oh, this isn't that hard, right? So hopefully it's not. But, you know, it's not the same for everybody. But I hope it's easier for you guys. All right. So there's my arc. All right. So what sides do I have? 25 is what? Hypotenuse. 7 is what? Opposite. So this has to be adjacent. According to the definition for sine, that's opposite over hypotenuse. I actually have both of those, right? So I don't have to use the Pythagorean theorem. I can just plug in the numbers. So that's going to be 7 over 25. And I'm done. Sometimes these problems can be easy, as long as you're given the right pieces. Okay? So the first 2, I purposely didn't have the right pieces. The last one, I did. Right. Yeah, always reduce. Always. You could always just put it into your calculator. It'll do it for you, in case you're not sure. But don't make it a decimal. Just leave it fractions. So yeah, that one's pretty easy. Everything's done already, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, are we good with these first 3? Any questions on those? Again, these notes will be up later in the video too, in case you showed up a little late. So, all right, 2 of each of these, and then 2 of the next type, and then we'll take questions after. So, find the measure of the indicated side. So now there's a side that's missing. I marked it with an X. I'm going to give you an angle, and then I'm going to give you some other side as well. You're going to be given one side you know, one side you don't. You'll be given an angle. Use one of the trig functions to figure out how to solve for it. Remember, your calculator should be in degree mode, so tomorrow when you guys get them, make sure that that letter D shows up or DEG somewhere. If you're not sure, show it to me. I can look. Okay? But for the most part, they should all be set up already. But you never know. So again, we're trying to find the measure of the indicated side. So for us, it would be side BC, right? That's the one we marked X. We have side AB, which is 9, and the angle of 51 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this up right here. Okay. So what is 9? Hypotenuse. What about X? That has to be adjacent because this is my opposite over there. Okay? But I'm not going to mark it though. I don't want to mark opposite because then it's just going to mess with me, right? I only want to put the markings for the things I need to use. AH. So which one is that? Which trig function? Cosine, right? So cosine of my angle, I'm just going to put theta for now, just by definition, is A over H. So my angle is 51 degrees. So cosine of 51 degrees is equal to A over H. I'm sorry, why am I doing that? Let me write down what's there. X over 9. So all I'm going to do is take 9 and multiply it over to the left-hand side. Okay, I'm going to multiply that over. So that's 9 times cosine of 51 degrees equal to X. All right, and I'm going to get my calculator here. Give me a second. All right, so let me write this down. 5.6638. We'll just stop there. We'll stop there. That's more than enough. If they want you to round it to the nearest tenth, what would be my answer? 5.7. Okay? And that would be the length of that side. So, I mean, not that this is terribly difficult, but, I mean, it could be a little bit more challenging. The next one will be a little bit more challenging. Remember, when we did this homework, these problems came in two different forms. Either your fraction had the variable on top, that meant that it was going to be an easier problem, or your fraction had the variable on the bottom, which meant that you were going to have to do a little bit of manipulation, right? Those were the harder problems. So we just did one of the easier problems where the variable is on top of the fraction. Okay? So this one is most likely going to have the variable on the bottom. Okay, that angle that's on angle A, that's a 26%. Okay, I'm sorry, 26 degrees. And then after this we got 2 more, and then we're done. And I guess if you guys have questions on yesterday's homework, or maybe while I do 6 and 7, it'll answer some of your questions. We do have triangle ABC. It is a right triangle. We have a side X and a side 13 and an angle of 26 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and put an arc around the angle. All right. That arc right there tells me where I'm supposed to be focusing on in terms of the angle. So that's 26 degrees. What's 13? Opposite. What about X? Adjacent, right? My hypotenuse is AB, right? Side AB, but there's nothing there, so I'm not going to put it there. OA is what? Yeah, this is going to be tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. Okay, that's my OA. Remember, OH is sine, AH cosine, OA tangent. So my angle is 26 degrees, so tangent of 26 degrees is opposite, that's 13, over adjacent, that's X. Notice how this fraction has the variable on the bottom. So that means it's going to require a little bit more work than just multiplying a number over. Okay, so here I'm going to multiply the letter over. So this becomes X times tangent of 26 degrees is equal to 13. And now I'm going to divide both sides by tangent of 26. Okay, tangent of 26 is just a number. Think of it like 10. So if it was 10x, you divide both sides by 10, right? So tangent of 26, I'm going to divide both sides by it. So tangent 26 degrees, tangent of 26 degrees. These will cancel, so you get x equal to 13 over tangent of 26 degrees. All right. Anybody have that? 26.65. All right, we could stop right there. And then let's round it to the nearest tenth. What is that? 26.7, right? So there you go. So this one would be like I said, the harder type of problem because the fraction has the variable on the bottom, which means you're going to have to move the variable, not just the number, but move a variable over and clean it up. So that's why we consider it harder. But I mean, honestly, you're just moving a number over, a letter over, dividing by a number. So it's not like a whole bunch of extra steps. But it is more than the previous example. So, sometimes when someone has to do a little bit more work in their brain, it's like, oh no, these are too hard to do, right? But it's not that much more difficult, just moving some stuff around. Any questions on 4 or 5? So 4, notice, easier one, right? You just move the number and multiply. 5, I got to move a variable, divide by a number, and then do your calculation. All right, last 2. And like I said, I'll open it up, see if you guys have any questions. So this one, I want to figure out the angle. This was yesterday's homework. Okay, so if you're having trouble with yesterday's homework, maybe the next 2 problems will kind of help you see maybe what was going wrong. But find the measure of the angle indicated to the nearest tenth. So I got to figure out what theta is. That's what I want to know. I get to pick which function to use. Okay, so that's what makes these quote unquote easier, because I get to pick which function. I'm not forced to only use the numbers that are there, and now I got to manipulate stuff to make it work. Like, no, they gave me what they gave me, and I can pick the function I need. Now I just got to make sure I pick the right one. Okay, because if I pick the wrong function, of course I'm going to get the wrong answer. So we have a right triangle here with a side of 7, a side of 8, a side that's not labeled, and then an angle of theta. So, focusing on theta. That's what I'm trying to solve. Okay? The 7 is what? Opposite. The 8, that's hypotenuse. So OH, what is that? Sine, right? So sine of theta is equal to O over H. Now, I don't know what theta is, so I'm going to put sine of theta. O is 7, and H is 8. Now, if we were doing the first 3 problems, I'd be done. Because they just would want like a definition. Sine of theta is what? 7/8. Okay, great. But now they want the angle. So to do the angle, what you're going to do is you're going to get the sine, the S-I-N part, you're going to throw it over to the other side. So it's just going to look like this. But you're going to put that -1 to mean you just did an inverse. And then from here, you let your calculator do the work. You're just going to do sine inverse of 7/8. Okay? So that I don't know off the top of my head. 61.04. So theta is 61.04 degrees. If I want it to the nearest tenth, the 4 does not round the 0 up, so that's 61 degrees. So there's my answer. So remember, you're getting the trig function, the sine, and you're literally just throwing it over. I'm not adding it, I'm not subtracting it, multiplying or dividing by it. What I'm actually doing is multiplying by its inverse. But it's easier to just say, let's take the sine, move it to the other side. Okay? And then you're just going to make it an inverse function when you move it over. Okay? So here's number 7, the last one. And then we're done. And like I said, if you guys want to do some homework problems from yesterday just to double check, we can do that. So number 7, again, we do have a right triangle. We have a side of 3, a side of 4, a side that's not mentioned, which is AC. We do have our angle. Angle B is theta. All right, so we're just going to basically use what's given and figure out what our angle is. So I'm going to focus on theta. All right, so I need to figure out what theta is. What is 3? Adjacent side, right? What is 4? All right, so that's A and H, so that's what? Cosine, right? Yeah, cosine theta equals A over H. So A is 3, H is 4, so cosine theta equals to 3 over 4. All right, now I got to get theta by itself, so just get the cosine and just literally throw it to the other side. So theta is equal to cosine, but then make it a -1, right? Because that means cosine inverse, and you're going to do cosine inverse of 3/4. Okay, so what do we get for that? All right, and the 0 does not make that 4 round up, so that means this is just 41.4 degrees.